If you've ever sold or wanted to sell baked goods that you made at home, chances are you never even considered that there was some kind of legal requirement or licensing that you needed to attain in order to legally do that. And you're not alone, because that was me. And that is many of the bakers out there who are baking and selling from home. No idea that there are legal requirements. When I first started baking and taking orders, I had been doing it for about a year here and there before it ever even occurred to me that I might need some kind of licensing or inspection or some kind of permit to be able to do what I do. I finally realized it when, after advertising my new website and that I was open for business for the summer for weddings, I actually ran into some friends at a little gathering, and one of them, who was also a baker, asked kind of passive-aggressively if I had moved, if I had some kind of new fancy kitchen. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And she was like, oh, well, I mean, you're doing all of this baking and selling from home, and so I assumed that you must have bought this new house with a big kitchen because that's not allowed. And my stomach just dropped right out of me. And it was like the most scared I'd ever been because I had no idea that I needed some kind of permit or license. And all of a sudden, all of my plans and my dreams and everything that I was reaching for seemed to just fizzle into thin air. When I asked her, well, what do I need? What's required? She honestly didn't know. And it was something that she was struggling with herself in her own business, which is why it was such a frustrating point for her to watch someone else seemingly go around those regulations when it was something she wanted to do herself. I totally understand where she was coming from, but what it instilled in me, besides just the fear of now I have to figure this out, is when I figure this out, I'm going to turn around and teach it to every single baker that I can, because someone who wants to run a business legally by the rules and do everything right shouldn't have to stress and pull out their hair just trying to figure out what it even is that they need to do. If someone could just tell me the hoops, I'll jump them. So I'm here to tell you exactly what is required for home bakers in the United States to bake and sell from home so that you don't have to figure it out by yourself. The main reason why it's so hard to figure out, if you've ever Googled it or if you've ever asked someone and looked into the legal requirements, what makes it so difficult is that it is not regulated on a federal national level. It is regulated at the state level and also the city level. So you're gonna find a wide variety of regulations, requirements, and things that a baker needs to do depending on what state you live in and what city you live in. There isn't one just fix-all solution that you can do at a national level. So we have to look at all of the requirements at a state level. And that's what can make it kind of tricky, because you're at the mercy of your state government and how well they put their website together. So not only am I gonna talk you through what are all of the requirements you should be considering as you start to bake and sell from home, but I also wanna help you know who you can reach out to, what departments you need to be talking to in order to find more information for your specific location. And I also wanna preface this, people don't just decide they want to bake and sell from home and go and get all of these permits right away. You kind of go through the process as you're figuring out your business. I don't want it to stop you or make you feel like you have to pull the plug on everything if you don't have all these bases covered, because nobody does at first. So I just want you to know that as we dive into this, that you don't have to panic. You're gonna figure this out and you can take it easy at your own pace and know that no one is coming to bang down your door and stop you dead in your tracks with your business. It's gonna be okay. So there are 4 different areas that you need to consider when you're wanting to bake and sell from home. The first is cottage food law. The second is a business license. The third is a state sales tax license. And the fourth is insurance. Let's start talking about cottage food law. Most states have some type of cottage food law. Sometimes it's known under different terminology as cottage food kitchen, cottage food bakery, home occupation kitchen. There's different ways it can be called, but most typically you'll see it referred to as cottage food law. This is laws and regulations that states have put in place to allow for bakers to sell from home. And the main purpose of cottage food law, the main objective, is consumer safety. They want to make sure that you as a home baker are educated and trained on how to safely prepare your products and what products are the safest to be putting out there from home so the people don't get sick. That is what cottage food law is all about. When it comes to cottage food, there are a wide variety of how states like to set this up, but it usually encompasses your recipes, what types of products you're selling, how they're being prepared and stored, and what ingredients are involved in those. It involves separation. This means in your kitchen, there is separation between home baking, cooking activities and business baking, cooking activities. We want to prevent any cross-contamination that can happen. So this often means having a separate fridge to store your chilled ingredients and finished products, or having, a dedicated cupboard that is for your business supplies, where that is just for business. That, when I first heard of it, seems like the biggest hurdle for me to overcome. At the time, I was living in a small apartment, and the idea of having to have so much separation was like, I'm gonna have to have like a warehouse or something. But as I researched and talked with my Department of Food and Agriculture about cottage food law and really figured it out, I realized it was a lot simpler than I had even thought it was. And for me, it was as simple as dedicating the top shelves of my pantry to business, the bottom shelves were my home things, and I was able to get a second fridge, which I could keep in my garage. Where you're allowed to store things depends on your state rules. Sometimes you're allowed to keep certain items in a garage or some kind of warehouse type shed on the property, and sometimes you're not. They will definitely tell you in the packet of rules and regulations that they give you when you call or when you reach out on their website. They'll let you know the specifics. And when you have questions, the best thing to do is to call and ask the department that's in charge so that you can get answers directly from them, because they'll be able to answer the best. But typically your recipes, they'll be submitted, they'll be looked over to make sure that what you're producing is shelf stable. Let's talk about what shelf stable even means, because that can be such a vague term, whether something's in your pantry or in the fridge or on the counter, and we call things shelf stable that maybe aren't, and then we have things in the fridge that are shelf stable and could be out. And it's a difference between, can something sit out on the counter and be safe on a safety level, be okay on a safety level, even if the quality is reduced. For example, like a buttercream decorated cake, most often that is shelf stable and it won't induce a risk of a safety microbiological threat, but the qualities might go down. Your buttercream might get saggy, it might start to melt. And so we keep it in the fridge from a quality perspective rather than a safety perspective. The two things that a state department is using to determine shelf stability is water activity and pH. Let's talk about water activity. This is on a microbiological level. The amount of unbound water molecules that are available for the use of microbial growth, microorganisms, to be able to grow and start to produce toxins. So water activity means that when water molecules are bound up with other molecules, they're not available and accessible to microbes. So it helps improve the shelf stability of a product. Water activity is measured, represented with a decimal point number, that 1 equals like 100%, this is water, and anything can grow in it and use whatever it wants to be able to grow and reproduce. And as it gets lower, the shelf stability improves. Something that binds water molecules in a product is sugar, which works in your favor as a baker because we put a lot of sugar inside our products. The other characteristic that a state government will measure in order to deem something shelf stable is pH. The lower a pH is, the more acidic it is. And acidity also inhibits microbiological growth. When it comes to pH, a pH of 4.6 and lower is good. That means more acidic and less microbiological growth. So those two characteristics combined will help your products be approved by your cottage food state laws. That is what the state government is looking for when they're looking at your recipes from a safety perspective. Common things that come into question or maybe get rejected are fresh creams and curds, like a lemon curd or a whipped cream, cheesecakes, a carrot cake that has chunks of carrot in it, anything that has like a vegetable chunk or is kind of a fresh cream product, those often get denied or put into question. When you submit a product that is questionable and maybe receives feedback and is not approved right at first, there are a couple things you can do. First, you can ask your state department if they will allow you to test your recipe for pH and water activity to see if it can meet the standard of requirement. This testing is done at a third-party lab, which often they have contacts for that you can send a sample to within your state, within your area, and that third-party lab will be able to do the proper tests for water activity and pH to give you the documentation to either prove that it can be approved or show that they are correct in declining it because of the safety factor. You can also ask your state department when a recipe is rejected or denied, what could I change about this recipe in order to get it approved? I did this with my own carrot cake recipe when it was softly denied when I was on the phone with my state department, with the chair of the head of the cottage food department. And she said, well, if you just puree your carrots, then you've removed those chunks of vegetable which have such a high water activity, and that would be okay. So that was allowed. Do I want to puree my carrots in a cake? Maybe, maybe not, but it gives you some options. The last thing I want you to know about is this amazing online digital book that the bakers in Texas put together. It is a book that has so many recipes that have already been tested for water activity and pH, and you can buy this book, use those recipes, and they should be able to be approved because they have been lab tested. I'm gonna leave the link to that book in the description of this video so that you can get it if you would like to. So we've talked about recipes with cottage food. We've talked about separation of business and home ingredients. The other thing that they are concerned about is sanitation, helping you understand good food handling practices so that you can keep things safe. Whether you realize it or not, most cases of food poisoning actually happen in the home. This was something that I learned when I was studying food science and getting my bachelor's degree in food science. It is home-cooked, home-produced meals and products that often make us sick, and we just don't realize it. We tend to blame other things, but a lot of us just don't know how to handle food properly, and we don't really think about it. When you apply for a cottage food license, they want to teach you and make sure you understand how to handle food properly so that it is safe for a consumer. Often, this involves getting a food handler's permit. You want to make sure that if you need to get a food handler's permit, which I encourage, whether your state requires it or not, I think it is a very smart thing to have and to learn. It usually costs anywhere from $30 to $35. There's programs to do it online, and then there's programs to do it in person. You just want to make sure that you're completing a program that is accepted by your state department, and they can give you a list of approved programs for your state. I was able to complete my food handler's permit in about an hour and a half, and it costed about $30, and it's good for 3 to 5 years. So to summarize cottage food, all of that is under cottage food, our first little box of legal requirements that we need to check. And it is often regulated by the Department of Agriculture, Department of Food and Agriculture, occasionally by the Public Health Department, but the Public Health Department tends to deal a little bit more with restaurant type establishments. It's not a bad place to start if you don't have a contact point for cottage food, to give them a call and say, hello, my name is Brett. I am trying to learn more about the requirements for a baker baking and selling from home. Can you direct me to the person in charge of that so I can ask them some questions? And play the little phone tag telephone game until you find the right person. Don't be afraid to ask questions when you make a call to a department like that. Always ask, well, what could I change? What could I do? What can I maneuver in my business so that I can be approved, so this can work? I do that every single time when I get into a sticky spot with legal rules. I always ask questions. And don't be afraid to call feeling like it's gonna get you on the radar. It's honestly, people are busy, and the last thing they're gonna do is like hunt down your social media and your website and put together a case file and come and shut you down. Most departments, they're there because they wanna help you get approved. So when you call, honestly, most of the time you don't even have to give your name. Just say, hey, I'm trying to learn about this. Can you send me to the right person? And you can just anonymously be able to get that information. It felt scary the first times that I made those calls, but it never really actually was. In my head, in your head, it is so much bigger of a deal. You feel like you're in the spotlight and you're really not. You're just a person making a phone call that they're gonna forget in 10 minutes. Let's talk about the second legal requirement for running a baking business from home, which is a business license. This is another thing that most bakers kind of just forego and you don't really think about. And it doesn't really make a big difference until you run into a situation where you need to have a business license. Situations might be certain vendors you want to work with, they want to know you have a business license. It does make you feel a little bit more legitimized, especially if you're interacting with people in your city. If you want to network with other businesses and network with like the city council and people who have a lot of sway and a lot of connections in your city, when you have a business license, it does give you a little more clout to your reputation as you're showing up and networking with people. Business licensing, different from cottage food, which is all about consumer safety, business licensing is all about ownership, liability, and zoning restrictions within your city. And a business license can be split into two categories. There's business licensing at the state and business licensing at the city level. Let's talk about the state level first. The state level is where the license is all about ownership, liability. It's about defining what type of business you are for tax purposes, for legal purposes, if there was ever a dispute, like who is the actual owner of this business and where does the liability end and stop. That's when you decide if you're a sole proprietorship, an LLC, an S Corp, any of those things. I am not a legal professional who's trained. I've worked with many legal professionals and I've done this for a long time, so I can tell you what I have done and what I have seen done, but please don't take my advice as law because I'm not a legal person. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just Brett the baker. But for a long time, I worked as a sole proprietorship because when I read the description as I was filling out those forms, I was like, that sounds like me. So I was a sole proprietorship for many years. As I started to learn about tax strategy with my accountant, who was a very smart woman and was able to explain how to set up my several businesses that me and my husband have, how to structure them for tax benefits, which was like way over my head. I switched to an LLC that owns a couple different DBAs that's owned by a trust. That is like way out of my league as far as me figuring that out. So go with either a sole proprietorship or an LLC, whichever one you feel like best defines you. Getting the business license on a state level is actually pretty easy most of the time. It's an online application, or you could probably fill it out and mail it in if that's your style. It's quite quick, and some of the jargon can be a little bit confusing to read through, so it can be helpful to have a legal contact point if you're like, hey, what does this mean? What is the articles of incorporation? Or, what is the difference between this and this? It can help to have a contact point. I've actually, when I was struggling with figuring that out, I called a lawyer's office and had those questions, and he actually stayed on the phone with me for like 10 to 15 minutes free of charge just to help me understand some of those things. And it was a very good, smart relationship building tool for him, because now I know I've got someone I can talk to because he just helped walk me through it for free, and that was really awesome. So you can call an office and they might be able to help you just understand a couple things. There's also something known as small business development centers all across the United States. SBDC, they're called. There's probably a center close to you, or you can reach out to them through the phone, through email, and they have legal attorneys who work with business owners for free, just as a resource, and they are able to help you understand some of that complex jargon just for free. But honestly, it's pretty straightforward. If you take the questions at face value and just read through them, you'll be able to figure them out, you'll be able to get your state license. However, let's talk about the city license. While the state is pretty open and you'll pretty much always be able to get your bakery business approved, at the city level, they can be a little more restrictive, which is why I actually recommend checking into your city requirements before you start applying for state or cottage food licensing. You want to research all of this before you just begin applying for all of these different things and paying the fees. You want to make sure you can get all of those ducks in a row before you start just pulling the triggers. Because what's interesting about all these departments is that they're interconnected, but they're not. And so cottage food, they're only concerned about cottage food, but they know that you're gonna need a business license and a sales tax license. And they might have some recommendations of like, hey, you should talk to them, or this is the link to that, or this person, but they're not always checking up on it. And they might not always have the most fresh, up-to-date information because departments don't always communicate with each other. So have that in mind, that you're working with kind of these separate entities. When they're all required and kind of interconnected, they're also very separate. So you have to take it with a grain of salt as you're making these calls. Just because you get approved for cottage food law doesn't mean your city is going to approve your business license, which I have personally experienced. So let's talk about that city level business license. While the state is concerned when they're licensing a business, they're concerned about ownership, about business definition, about liability, and tax purposes, your city is thinking about zoning restrictions and requirements and the impact that it's going to have on a neighborhood. So when you're applying as a home occupation business, meaning you work and sell and do things from home, they want to know, is this going to drive the neighbors crazy? Are you going to set up like a warehouse in your back door? Are you going to be having clients lining up down the street? These are the things that they're thinking of. So impact is what they're worried about. It's called the Home Occupation Code or Ordinance, and their zoning restrictions. That is what the city is concerned about. They can be a little more restrictive than even cottage food law or the state business license requirement. For a long time, I did not need to have a business license. When I went in to apply with my city for my business license, I had my cottage food, I had my state license, and I came in and they're like, look, as long as we're not getting complaints and you're not making an impact on the neighborhood, you don't need a license with us. Like, please go forth and sell cake. Now that I live in a new town and I've started a whole new baking business from scratch because I wanted to, because I'm insane like that, I thought, what a fun opportunity to kind of leave my first business intact as like this high-end wedding cake business. And then when I moved, I thought this is a great chance to start from scratch, put everything I teach into action, start a new business plan, get all the licensing, like do it in a whole new way in a whole new community where I'm not known. Licensing that new business in a new town has been totally a different process because the city actually has certain phrases in their home occupation code that doesn't allow for me to bake and sell from home. What does this mean? I actually just got off the phone with the Planning Commission manager advisor today, and she let me know that they want to change it, that it's just old phrasing that wasn't needed, like it wasn't considered an issue when it was written. It was probably just copied and pasted from another city. And now it's like, wait, we've got all these people running businesses from home. They can't get a business license because of this wording. So I'm actually working with her and the Planning Commission right now and the City Council to try and change that. So I'm going to be researching different city codes and bringing something to them saying, this is how I want it to be. And I'll probably gather other home occupation businesses like me, who are bakers or nail technicians, hairstylists, anyone who might be doing something from home that needs or wants a license. We're going to come all together and we're going to get this code changed so that it can help uplift and impact our community in a good economical way. So currently, my business does not have a license with the city. And I explicitly asked her, I was like, look, if I keep selling, even though I don't have this, like through the process of getting this changed, if I keep selling, are you going to shut me down? Like, what does that mean for my business? And she's like, well, obviously I just told you we're quite busy, which is why we're very slow in updating this. So I don't have the time or the bandwidth to like hunt anyone down and close them down. I am operating only on complaints. If I get a complaint about you, then it'll come into question. But as for now, like, do what you will. It was kind of the blessing that I received from her. And I think it's the same for many government departments. Is if you're not causing issues and there's not complaints, then you most likely will be fine doing what you're doing until something comes into question, and then you want to get those licenses and do what you can to get codes changed. Laws change all the time. There were many states that had restrictive cities, restrictive state cottage food laws, and I've talked to a lot of bakers who rallied together to make those changes, and I'm doing it now in my own community. So don't get disheartened if you run into stumbling blocks like that, especially on the city level, because I think those are the people who are most willing to work with you in that direct kind of community sense. Okay, so we've talked about cottage food law. We've talked about a business license on the state level and on the city level. Let's talk about sales tax. Sales tax is technically required by anybody who is selling any product, service, any type of whatever. Sales tax is, again, it's a hard one to navigate because not only is it regulated by like the state, but also within different counties. So if you move from one county to another, the sales tax rate that you should be charging might change. It might go from 7.2% to 6.5%. The amount of sales tax you should be charging depends on what you're actually selling. Baked goods as a food commodity can sometimes fit into a lot of different categories. And to this day, has been kind of tricky to make sure that I'm charging the right percentage because sometimes I call or ask different people. My accountant, she was like, I think you fit under here. And then a worker at the sales tax IRS department for the state might say something totally different. And their manager says something totally different. I've had many conversations. So honestly, when it comes to sales tax, I make sure I'm charging what I feel like I have interpreted it to be based on the information I've collected from the websites and from people I've asked, and I just do my best. I collect it and I pay it. The nice thing about sales tax is that it actually doesn't cut into your profits because it's this extra bit that you're tacking on at the end. So you've already charged your price and then you calculate the percentage of that price that is sales tax, and that is an extra bit that your customer pays and that you then pay to the government. You're basically just a steward of the sales tax from getting it from the consumer, from the buyer to the government. Sales tax can be paid in a couple different ways. I would bet that most states have you pay it online, which is how I pay mine. I have a certain account that I log into that is just for sales tax. When you pay your sales tax tends to depend on how much revenue you're making as a business. My first 1 or 2 years as a business, I paid my sales tax yearly because I didn't quite meet a certain threshold. And so it was yearly, which was nice because it was just once a year and it wasn't as much of a headache. Now that my revenue has grown, I have to pay quarterly, which means that every quarter, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Those are the 4 quarters, and every quarter I pay the sales tax that I've collected just online in that way. And it's pretty simple. It's just something else to think about. So you want to make sure that you are putting that on your invoices, collecting it, paying it. I'm honestly never here to talk politics about whether it's morally whatever to be charging tax. I just like to be able to check my box when I can and make sure I've covered all my bases. Last but not least, we have this legal box of insurance. Insurance is a bit of a self-assessed need. It's the thing you pay in case there's something that goes wrong someday, which heaven forbid it doesn't. You actually hope that you're gonna pay this insurance and never have to use it, which is a little bit crazy. I went for many years without insurance as a business, and a lot of bakers probably do too. What triggered me into getting insurance is once I started having a lot of events. I was hosting students, I was putting together these dessert nights where there was 50 people coming, and it was also during the COVID pandemic, which had me a little bit more concerned. And that's when I decided I was gonna have insurance for my business to cover if anyone ever got sick or if I ever smushed cake into a rug at a venue, that it would cover anything like that. I also have some of my equipment covered. So insurance is a good thing to think about once your prices have kind of reached a certain level of you're doing thousands of dollars of sales, working with high-end clients, you're working with groups of people and hosting events, or you have really expensive baking equipment like a big old commercial size mixer or something like that you want covered with your insurance. I pay about $59, $60 for insurance a month. And when it came to choosing a plan and who to work with, I made a phone call and just had a very honest conversation with the agent. And I made sure to pick someone who I felt like didn't talk down to me and let me ask the stupid questions, because insurance goes way over my head. And so we walked through scenarios and we walked through the what ifs, and she really helped me kind of understand if this was going to be the right plan or not for me. You can shop around. It's okay to get different quotes and figure out what's best for your business. And it might be something that you don't do right away. Like I said, it is kind of self-assessed. You may run into some venues or event planners that you want to work with who require insurance. And in that case, there's opportunities or ways for you to get like a temporary insurance for a single event and explore that as an option. It's something that you would call and talk to an agent about, but it is a possibility if you need insurance to get just a temporary one to cover a single event. So those are your legal boxes as a baker that you need to be thinking about: cottage food licensing, business licensing, sales tax, and insurance. How do you get started now? Well, let's start with cottage food. In the description of this video, there's a link where you can get a download of all of the contact information state by state for every cottage food department that there is in the United States. I personally went through to every single website and put this together. Websites get updated and changed, so hopefully all of those links and contact info is up to date. If by chance any of it is not, then do what I said before. Make a phone call to the best option you can find and say, this is what I'm trying to learn about cottage food law. Can you direct me to the person in charge of that? There are many bakers like you trying to figure this out. And I am a big believer of rising together and supporting each other as a community because we understand what the other person is going through. And when we can open the way for others, it opens the way for ourselves. So if this video helped you, please subscribe to the channel, The Out of Home Baker. Please like the video, turn on the little bell because that helps others find it, and it also helps you know when there's new content coming out that's gonna help you build your baking business. I believe 100% that every single baker can make a steady, good income baking and selling from home. Does every baker do that? Not quite, because sometimes they're missing some of the key ingredients to business success. Just like you bake a chocolate cake and you have to turn on the oven, you have to have the right amounts in the right way mixed to be able to get a good end product. Business is the same. It goes far beyond just having a good recipe or a good product. You have to know how to market. You have to know how to price. You have to learn how to take care of your customers and build up a brand reputation that lets you stand out so people come to you when they want to order baked goods. If you want to learn more about that, I'm here for you. You can visit www.outofhomebaker.com for resources and courses and template downloads that'll help you get on the fast track to get your business to success, which is what I want to see. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Brett, the Out of Home Baker, and I'll talk to you next time. Happy baking.